Hello, everyone. Welcome to the third presentation together. After we have discussed the different leadership styles, and leadership in educational institutions with their key skills, competences, functions, and the challenges they are facing today, in this presentation, the third presentation, we are going to discuss, and I'm going to show you one of the most important functions of managers, leaders in every institution, organization, which is the appraising and managing the performance, and especially the performance of employees in educational institutions. The learning outcomes of this session are, first, we are going to identify the key components of human resource management, because the appraisal, the management of employees begins from the moment that we select hire high-skilled and qualified employees. So we are going to discuss the key elements, features of how to identify and select competent, well-skilled, high-skilled professional employees. After we have identified and selected them, the next step is to provide the employees with the needed skills and knowledge. We're going to see the different types of or steps of training and developing employees, professional elements. Then we're going to see the strategies for retaining, how after we have selected, hired, trained, then we should go on with further retaining the high-performing employees in our institutions, educational institutions. And the main focus will be on appraising and managing the performance of employees in educational institutions. Now, the quality of an organization is determined by the quality of people who are employed in that organization. Success for most organizations depends on finding employees with skills that which allow them to successfully perform the tasks required to attain the company's strategic goals. Staffing and human resource management decisions and actions are critical to ensuring that an organization hires and keeps the right people. So getting that done is what human resource management is all about. So human resource management means hiring the right people in the right place and at the right time. In this figure, are showed all the steps that human resource management process passes through. The three main elements are, the three main steps are, first, the human resource management or human resource managers deal with identifying and selecting competent employees. And this step happens in three different sub-actions, such as, first, we have to make strategic human resource planning. So we are going to plan how many employees we are going to assume, what kind of competences do they need to have in order to better perform the tasks. After that, after we have planned the number of employees and the skills they should have, then we go with the recruiting and or downsizing in case we have more than needed employees, and selecting the best ones. All these steps we are going to explain in the next slides. The second main category activity is related to adapted and competent employees with up-to-date skills, knowledge, and abilities. So after we have employed the, let's say, high qualified and with high skills and experience and capacity employees, the first step is to orient them in our organization, in our school, in our education institution, and the continuous training of our staff and training and their career development. The third step is competent and high-performing employees who are capable of sustaining high performance over the long term. So it is the phase in which we manage the performance of our employees. We keep them by compensation, with good compensation and different benefits and motivation factors. And safety and health is the last element, which help us maintain good relationship, motivate our employees, and have good relationship and a low return rate within our school, in our case, or in different organizations. Performance management in educational institutions, which is the main focus of this presentation, refers to the systematic evaluation and improvement of individual and organizational performance, both individual, if, according to the studies, researchers, if the employee individuals are showing good performance, are performing good, even the organization is going to have a high performance. So performance management in educational institutions involves setting clear expectations, monitoring progress, providing constructive feedback, and implementing developmental interventions. The significance of performance management lies in its ability to enhance productivity, support professional development, and drive accountability. By aligning the efforts of educators and staff with institutional goals, performance management ensures that the institution remains focused on its mission to deliver high-quality education and foster student success. The objectives of performance management are multifaceted, encompassing the enhancement of individual and organizational productivity, the facilitation of professional development, and the establishment of accountability frameworks that support sustained development. Now, let's begin with the first step of the organization, and in our case of the education institution, of the school. We are going to discuss the tasks associated with identifying and selecting high competent employees. This process goes through 3 different steps. First, we do the employment planning phase. Then, recruitment or downsizing, if we need to hire or to to downsize the number of our employees. And after that, if we need more and if we want to recruit more employees, more staff, then the third step is the selection. So supply and demand aren't just for economics, they are important for human resource management too. But how does an organization do current human resource assessment? Petra, bravo zemlja. Te se jama koma të puna, edhe Reni është këtu, Amina po bën matematik, mirë se po bëj ca kështu, ca punën, ca regjistrime. Mirë zemër,
Okay.
hajde bukuroshe, flasim pastaj. Ciao. The first step of human resource management is employment planning, as we said, is employment planning. It is the process by which managers ensure that they have the right number and kinds of people in the right places at the right times, but people who are capable of effectively and efficiently completing those tasks that will help the organization achieve its goals. Employment planning then translates the organization's missions and goals into a human resource plan that will allow the organization to achieve these goals. The process can be divided in two steps. The first one is assessing current human resource and future human resource needs. And the second one is to develop a plan to meet those needs. So first, we assess the current number the number of current human resources and future human resources, and after that, we develop a plan to meet these needs for the number of employees. So how does an organization do a current human resource assessment? The first step. Managers generally begin by reviewing their current human resource status. This review is typically done by generating a human resource inventory. It's not difficult to generate in most organizations and schools, since the information for it is derived from forms completed by employees. Such inventories might list the name, education, training, prior employment, languages spoken, capabilities, and specialized skills for each employee in the organization. And this inventory allows managers to assess what talents and skills are currently available in their organization. Another part is job analysis. It's typically a lengthy process, one in which workflows are analyzed and skills and behaviors that are necessary to perform jobs are identified. For example, what does an international reporter who works for the Wall Street Journal do, for example? Or what minimal knowledge and skills and abilities are necessary for the adequate performance of a specific job? And so on. The job analysis can answer these questions. The purpose of job analysis is to determine the kinds of skills, knowledge, and attitudes that are needed to successfully perform each job. And this information is then used to develop or revise job descriptions and job specifications. Job description is a written statement that describes the job or what a job holder does, how it is done, and why it is done. It typically portrays a job content, environment, and conditions of employment, while job specification states the minimum qualifications that a person must possess in order to perform a given job successfully. It focuses on the person and identifies the knowledge, skills, and attitudes needed to do the job effectively. The job description and job specification are both important documents when managers begin recruiting and selecting. For instance, the job description can be used to describe the job of potential candidates, and the job specification keeps the manager's attention on the list of qualifications necessary for an incumbent to perform a job and assists in determining whether candidates are qualified or not. Furthermore, hiring individuals on the basis of the information contained in these two documents can help ensure that the hiring process does not discriminate. But how are future employee needs determined? Future human resource needs are determined by the organization's strategic goals and directions. Demand for human resources for employees is a result of demand for the organization's products and services, of course. Then, on the basis of an estimate of total revenue, managers can attempt to establish the number and mix of people needed to reach that revenue. In some cases, however, the situation may be reversed when particular skills are necessary and in scarce supply for the organization at a specific moment. The availability of needed human resources determines the revenues. For example, managers of an upscale chain of assisted living retirement facilities who find themselves with abundant business opportunities are limited in their ability to grow revenues by whether they can hire qualified nursing staff to fully meet the needs of the residents. In most cases, however, the overall organizational goals and the resulting revenue forecasts provide the major input in determining the organization's human resource requirement. Now, after assessing both current capabilities and future needs, managers can estimate talent shortages both in number and in kind, and highlight areas in which the organization or the school is overstated. They can help then develop a plan that matches these estimates with forecasts of future labor supply. Employment planning not only guides current staff needs, but also projects future employee needs and availability. Now, once managers know their current staffing levels, understaffed or overstaffed, they can begin to do something about it. If vacancies exist, they can use the information gathered through job analysis to guide them in recruitment. That is the process of recruitment, is the process of locating, identifying and attracting capable applicants. On the other hand, if employment planning indicates a surplus, then managers may want to reduce the labor supply within the organization and initiate downsizing or restructuring activities. But how do we get those? Where does a manager recruit applicants? Here in the table are shown different sources from where managers can recruit the needed staff. These sources are internet and social media, and nowadays it is a very well used source because of the benefits, advantages that it offers. But it's not the only way that managers can use in order to recruit different human resources, different staff. Um, Especially in some societies like Albania or very in small societies, managers can use employee referrals in order to identify high competent employees by references. Or another way is to use the company website. Um, College recruitment or job fairs, professional recruiting organizations, in case that the previous listed sources does not function very well. But each of these sources have its main advantages and disadvantages, and managers, of course, have to make the balance and benefit from the source which best suit to their school or to their culture, and so on. Okay. Once the recruiting effort has developed a pool of applicants, now the next step is to determine who is best qualified for the job. Select the right people. In essence, the selection process is a prediction exercise. It seeks to predict which applicants will be successful if hired, that is, who will perform well in the criteria the organization uses to evaluate its employees. Consider for a moment that any selection decision can result in four possible outcomes, as shown in the figure. Two outcomes would indicate correct decisions, and two would indicate error. Okay? A decision is correct when when the applicant who was predicted to be successful and was accepted later provide to be successful on the job, or the applicant who was predicted to be unsuccessful and who was rejected would not have been able to do the job if hired. In the former case, we have successfully accepted. In the later case, we have successfully rejected. Problems, in fact, occur when we reject applicants who, if hired, would have performed successfully on the job and called rejected errors, or if we accept those who subsequently perform poorly, and it is accept errors. These problems are unfortunately far from insignificant. A generation ago, reject errors only meant increased selection costs because more applicants would have to be screened, while today, selection techniques that result in reject errors can open the organization and the school, in our case, to charges of employment discrimination, especially if applicants from protected groups are disproportionately proportionally rejected. Accept errors, on the other hand, have obvious costs to the organization, including the cost of training the employees, the cost generated or profits foregone because of the employee's incompetence, and the cost of severance and the subsequent cost of additional recruiting and selection screening. The major intent of any selection activity is to reduce the probability of making reject errors or accept errors, while increasing the probability of making correct decisions. But how? This can be done by using selection procedures that are both reliable and valid too. Now, managers, principals, leaders can use different tools such as written or simulation tests or interviews as selection techniques. These techniques should be used in order to reduce accept and reject errors. The typical written tests include tests of intelligence, aptitude, ability, test of interest, and so on. Such tests have long been used in selection devices, although their popularity has run in cycles. Written tests were widely used after Second World War, and they were frequently characterized as discriminatory, and many organizations could not validate that their written tests were job-related. Anyway, today written tests have had a comeback, although most of them are now internet-based. Experts estimate that online personality tests are used by employers to assess personality, skills, cognitive abilities, and other traits of their prospective employees. Managers are increasingly aware that poor hiring decisions are costly and that properly designed tests can reduce the likelihood of making such decisions. In addition, the cost of developing and validating a set of written tests for a specific job has declined significantly. And there is a positive trend toward simulation, performance simulation tests. Minhas papás se montei laboratório. Eu montei o chão, a tudo tá de conta. A minha papás não tem laboratório. A marcha there, you know, but tinha da corte. Oh, to do you. Szkodzie deadline. Do jakie ma, bo tam barują do rejestrimi? Barują po koszyku. Śmiało, które? Mer razanadia. O mer bash mer, não se escola de onde que custa nem. Aqui só parou, mas não sei disso. Hã? O do viver ele. Do not back there until luta. Bonjour. Interview is an almost universal selection device. Few of us have ever gotten a job without undergoing one or more interviews. The irony of this is that the value of an interview as a selection device has been the subject of considerable debate. Interviews can be reliable and valid selection tools, but too often they are not. In order to be an effective predictors, interviews need to be structured, well organized, and have interviewers asking relevant questions. But those conditions don't characterize many interviews. The typical interview, in which applicants are asked a varying set of essentially random questions, is an informal setting, often provides little in the way of valuable information. All kinds of potential biases can creep into interviews if they are not well structured and standardized. But what does research tell us about interviewing? How can I be a good interviewer? Here you have some tips for managers in order to make interviews more valid and reliable. The review for the job description and job specification to help in assessing the applicant. So first, the interviewer has to deep inside the job description and job specification in order to identify what skills, competences the candidate must have in order to perform better the vacancies. The second suggestion is that the interviewers have to prepare a structured set of questions to ask to the applicants for the job. reviewer an applicant's resume before meeting him or her. So you have to have some ideas about previous ideas about and information about the candidate. Another suggestion is to ask questions and listen carefully to the applicant's answer, and write your evaluation of the applicant while the interview is still fresh in your mind, because otherwise you're going to forget the details, or to mix the details of different applicants, and so on. Oh, sky correction. Mina pa u bën ai gjë tjetër. E çu 3 orë atë. Now, during the hiring process, every job applicant develops a set of expectations about the company and about the job for which he or she is interviewing. But when the information an applicant receives is different from the reality, a number of things happen that have potentially negative effects on the company. For example, mismatched applicants are less likely to withdraw from the research process. Um, inflated information builds unrealistic expectations, so new employees are likely to become quickly dissatisfied and to resign very quickly. In order to increase job satisfaction among employees and reduce turnover, managers should consider a realistic job preview, which includes both positive and negative information about the job and the company. Research, in fact, indicates that applicants who have been given a realistic job preview hold lower and more realistic job expectations for the job they will be performing and are better able to cope with the frustrating elements of the job than are applicants who have been given only inflated information. The result is fewer unexpected resignation by new employees, and for managers, realistic job previews offer a major insights into the human resource management process. Now, how are employees provided with the needed skills and knowledge? If we have done our recruiting and selecting properly, we have hired competent individuals who can perform successfully in our job, but furthermore, successful performance from these high qualified employees require or staff require more than possessing certain skills. Now, new hires must be welcomed to the organizations and accommodated to the organization's culture and be trained and given the necessary knowledge to do the job in a manner which is consistent with the organization's goals. And to achieve this, human resource managers uses orientation and training. How are new hires introduced to the organization? Once a job candidate has been selected, he or she needs to be introduced to the job and organization. This introduction is called job orientation. The major goals of job orientation are to reduce the initial anxiety that all new employees feel as they begin a new job, familiarize new employees with the job, the work unit, and the whole organization, and facilitate the outsider-insider transition. The job orientation expands on the information the employee obtained during the recruitment and selection stages, clarifies the new employee's specific duties and responsibilities, as well as how he or she performance, as well as how his or her performance will be evaluated, and corrects any unrealistic expectations new employees might hold about the job. The second element, the work unit orientation, familiarizes the employees with the goals of their work unit, clarifies how his or her job contributes to the unit's goals, and provides an introduction to his or her co-workers too. The organization orientation informs the new employees um, about the organization's goals, history, philosophy, procedures, and rules, clarifies relevant human resource policies and politics, such as procedures, such as working hours, pay procedures, overtime requirements, and benefits, and may include a tour of the organization or physical facilities. Managers have an obligation to make the integration of a new employee into the organization, into the new school, as smooth and anxiety-free as possible. Successful orientation, whether formal or informal, results in an outsider-insider transition that makes the new member feel comfortable and fairly well adjusted, lowers the likelihood of poor work performance, and reduces the probability of a surprise by the new employee only a week or two into the job. The next step, after we have welcomed and well-oriented our new staff, our new teachers, principals, and so on in our school, is job training, employee training. On the whole, plans don't cause employee training is a learning experience that seeks a relatively permanent change in employees by improving their ability to perform on the job. Thus, training involves changing skills, knowledge, attitudes, or behavior. And this change may involve what employees know, how they work, or their attitudes toward their jobs, co-workers, managers, and the organization. Determining training needs typically involves answering several questions. And if some of these questions sound familiar, you've been paying close attention. So when training is needed, as we can see here, the questions in the figure suggest the kinds of signals that can warn a manager or a principal or a leader when training may be necessary. The more obvious ones are related directly to productivity. Indications that job performance is declining include decreases in production number, lower quality, more accidents, more conflicts, more problems, higher problems and conflicts, and so on. Any of these outcomes might suggest that employees, teachers, staff, and so on need to be fine-tuned. Of course, we are assuming that an employee's performance decline is in no way related to lack of effort. Managers too must also recognize that training may be required because the workplace is constantly evolving, or new technology, for example, is using in education and so on. Changes imposed on employees as a result of job redesign or technological background breakthrough, and which also requires some training. Here are shown some traditional training methods that we used to use in as training tools. In on-job training, job rotation, mentoring and coaching, experiential exercises, classroom lectures, and so on. But these training are more and more substituted nowadays by technology-based training methods, just like this training we are using in this project, which are videotapes, podcasts, video conferences, e-learning, mobile learning, and so on, which are more and more used nowadays just because of the variety of benefits it offers to both institution and to the staff who is trained. Kako ma shumë zot mërzita. Dhe ti që bë me Erenin, Amina. Të lutem shko shikoje pak më me. Shko. Shikoje pak. Ma. Hape në qik derë, në mina. Erdhe. A dhe ikim? Edhe pak. Iku a jani? Po. Tani iku? Po. Eto më babin? Më babin. Mirë. Tani, merë me diçka tani sa të mërë mami këtë. Nuk e di zemër. Tham dhe një gjysëmore që mos ke më punë. Tham t'i heqë shafë se më ngarë majtë punës. Reni, jam duke bërë regjistrim. Isha se ka marrë aminën të gjithë kohën. Ktheu këtej, se nuk jam duke regjistruar. Jam duke bërë regjistrim, kam dhe gjysmore punë, të lutem. Merru me diçka. Nuk e di, merr librin që kishe këtu të dhe lexo. Gjysmore maksimumi. Jo, nuk hape, po e hape dot. Po mua mos më ashtu, mos më fol. Amina, ha pra tani, se ai do të vazhdoj ti ke këtë tjetrën, tani mos të lutem. Vetëm pa fjalë. Now, after we have passed at this stage, we have selected, hired, well-oriented and trained our employees, then the next step is to maintain them, to retain them, and to finally fully benefit from their experience, knowledge, skills, capacities, capabilities, and so on. So, what should we do in order to maintain or retain competent, high-performing employees? We have to be sure about their contribution in our institution, in our school, and for that we need to measure to manage and to measure their performance. What is the performance? It is the degree of accomplishment of the tasks that make up an employee's jobs. So it reflects how well an employee is fulfilling the requirements of a job. If well-designed and implemented systems, if we are pursuing well-designed and implemented systems, they will let employees know how well they are presently performing, and clarifies it. Clarifies what needs to be done to improve the performance. There are, anyway, some environmental factors which can hinder the good performance of our employees, such as employees' lack of time or conflicting demands upon it, inadequate work facilities and equipment, which make them um, um, not performing in the highest way. There might be restrictive policies that affect the job, and we have to revise them. Lack of cooperation from others and type of supervision. Temperature, some conditions such as temperature, lighting, noise, machine or equipment, pacing, shifts, and lack, which can affect the performance of our employees. In order to eliminate or minimize these performance obstacles, management and leaders and principals are responsible for providing employees with the adequate working conditions and supportive environment. Now, managers, leaders, principals are responsible for designing the adequate performance management system within their institution, within their school, for example. They are responsible for selecting the methods and forms which are more adequate to be used for appraising their employees' performance. Ja, ja, se i kam këtu këto. Ja, zemër nuk mundem, I'm sorry. A e re nuk mundem. O ami, e ren më duhen mua të shikon ti, unë po përdor këtë dhe këtë. Po i përdor të dy. Po sepse kështu është. Na, merë telefonin tim. Afroje karrikën atje që ti jesh edhe t'ja. Ok. The literature suggests different methods that managers, principals, leaders can use in order to better measure the price, the performance of the employees, such as written essay, critical incidents, objective rating scales, bars, and management by objectives, 360-degree appraisal, multi-person, and so on. We are going, each of these, in this figure, we can see the advantages and disadvantages of using each of these methods, but we are going to deep inside the two methods, management by objectives and 360-degree appraisal. The management by objectives is establishing clear and precise defined statements of objectives for the work to be done and employed. It consists in establishing an action plan, including how these objectives are to be achieved, and allowing employee to implement the action plan. Which are the requirements? measuring objective achievements. Quantifiable and measurable objectives. Avoid objectives whose attainment cannot be measured, so they must be attainable. And challenging yet achievable objectives expressed in writing, which means that the objectives must not be too easy and not too difficult to be achieved. There must be realistic, but not too easy and not too difficult. The objectives must be clear, conscious, and written in an unambiguous language. Uh, a very specific and characteristic of this method is that both employees and employers take place in defining and in setting the goals. So it is the participation of employees in objective setting process. And the second characteristic is the regular discussions between manager and employee concerning the employee's performance. So it is a revision and discussion time after time, and the performance is not measured only at the end of the period. Here you have an example. An example of how to define conscious targets, objectives. For example, not to maximize the production, but to specify increase the production by 10% within the next 3 months. So specify the amount of production, the increase of production by 10%, and the period within the 3 months. Or, for example, reduce the abstention. This is very general, but a specific objective is to average no more than 3 absent days per employee per year, and so on. And even here, we have other examples of how to define conscious objectives. For example, in the fourth objective about the personal, usually it is expressed in terms of turnover absenteeism. Our objective is to, a specific objective is to average fewer than 3 days of absenteeism per employee per year. The next performance appraisal method, widely used by managers, human resource managers, and leaders, is the multi-rater assessment called 360-degree feedback, in which managers, peers, customers, suppliers, in our case, students, pupils, and other staff or colleagues, and the employee being assessed are asked to complete the questionnaire. So each of them gives a feedback about their relationship with the assessed employee. Human Resources Department provides the results to the employee. Another technique is the critical incident appraisal. The rater keeps a written record of incidents that illustrate positive and negative employee behaviors. And the rater then uses the incidents as a basis for evaluating the employee's performance. The essay appraisal method, the rater prepares a written statement describing the employee's strengths, weakness, and the past performance. And the evaluation is done related to these points. The checklist. In the checklist technique, the rater answers with a yes or no for a series of questions about the behavior of the employee being rated. Now, there is a phenomenon known as halo effect, which is the rater allows a single prominent characteristic of an employee to influence his judgment on each separate item in the performance appraisal. The factors causing errors in performance appraisal include personal preferences and prejudices about each employee, for each employee, and biases and first impression. And managers have to be very careful in order to avoid all the halo effect and these biases and preferences for each employee in order to make a correct performance appraisal for each employee. But these disadvantages, these biases, this halo effect can be reduced by providing the raters with training in performance appraisal methods, or the most used or the best performance appraisal methods, or the advantages and disadvantages of each method, so that we can benefit from the advantages of each performance appraisal method, and mitigate as much as possible their negative effects, their disadvantages. Raters' role in total appraisal process, modify their role, and communication skills necessary to provide feedback to employee. Uh, Anyway, we can develop performance improvement plans for our institution, for our school, for example, which consists in setting performance goals, then providing some training necessary to achieve the goals, assessing performance related to accomplishing goals, and then setting new or higher goals. I want to thank you for your nice attention. I hope this presentation will be beneficial, helpful to you. And thank you for your attention, and good luck in the next session. Goodbye to everyone.